talk yourself into yawning?
Yeah,
Didn't mean to wear you out.
that's all right. I'm fine.
I'll see you in a little while.
I don't know if you wanted this on videotape or not, but I really enjoyed that story you told me the last time. I don't know if you remember it, where the principal you said lost that redneck. You said, is that something you want on camera or?
Well, that was a metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put that on camera. That,
Okay.
that was a metaphor to say that he had second thoughts. And he changed. He became much more compassionate. He began to recognize the strengths and the merits of African American educators. He saw the role of African American men in the educational setting, and especially with African American males who were beginning to represent a large segment of single parent families. Role modeling was probably declining for the African American male right at the time that desegregation was taking place. But at Fike High School, along with myself, and I was one of the youngest teachers on the faculty for a long period of time, before there was someone else younger than myself.
You were my age, 24, 25?
Yes, yes, I was.
Yeah. That is pretty young, yeah.
So, but we could deal with the disciplinary problems, and we took the pressure off of many older white teachers whose discipline was, the rod and iron fist.
Yep.
And the black children resisted that for a long period of time. And so I think this person realized the role that we were playing. And that was enhanced even more so in 1978. We had been desegregated for 8 years. By 1978, we had a total county school merger where the Elm City schools and the Wilson County schools were no longer in existence. The county commissioners forced a merger and created one school system. And coming to our school from Elm City was veteran teachers, Harvey Reed, well-known and highly recognized basketball coach, Mr. J.H. Dickens, who was come from the old school of agricultural shop teachers. But there were some excellent white teachers who came as well. Mrs. Loretta Parker, who was an English teacher and who came and paired with an African American teacher, Mrs. Eddie Higgins, and uplifted children in a very, very intellectual manner. So I think my principal, Mr. Stott, who started out one way, and who would, when he first came, who would refer to the faculty as you people, rather than us or we. And to hear that phrase is something, to me, just sitting in a faculty meeting, it was highly alienating. It was highly alienating. But finally, we kept doing what we called, we kept having meetings And the meetings were designed for us to learn about each other, about each other's feelings, about each other's educational ideals. We struggled to try to come together as educators for the good of the children.
Mm-hmm.
And in the long run, that principal, Mr. Stock, did promote that. He promoted the harmony. And for whatever reason, he finally felt good and free to be in the midst of an association with African Americans, even when he was the only white person in the crowd.
Yeah.
He would sit at the table with us, and we would sit over to the side, away from the women, because sometimes we were experiencing some corny jokes. And he had some good ones himself that he shared with us. And we would all just laugh and have such a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had always looked forward to that day. And it finally came. But I don't know, there were some people, I got to know him very well, and we became friends. There was, in his older years, in his last years, he always invited me to come out to Rock Ridge to the garden and to collect vegetables, whatever it was I wanted. And I really enjoyed that, because while there we had some of the best talks. So I think that everybody experienced some kind of transformation. But I don't know whether those transformations were for the good or for the worse. It's hard to say. But I want to go back to the issues. I want to talk a little bit about the issues that we faced in school desegregation. And one issue was based on the stereotype that African Americans had gone to inferior schools, had received an inferior education, had been inferiorly prepared to be educators. And as one person, chairman of Board of Trustees, Durham, North Carolina, Mr. Biscom Baines, I think his name was, said it was a vicious cycle. So the word that the superintendent and the administrators began to use was qualified teachers. And right away, it said the myth was created that it is hard to find qualified African American teachers. Now, as a student teacher in a historically black college, that hit home with me and many of my classmates who were determined that, that we would be on a par with anybody else, regardless. And our professors emphasized how you do that. You only spend 1 hour in a classroom, but you got 23 other hours in that day. And if you let one of those days pass without you reading something that promotes the education that you're trying to get, then you're not going to be an educated man. So we struggled to do that. And when I came to teaching, I know that there were several older teachers who had gone to summer institutes at Hampton and had gotten all the necessary requirements for certification. I don't know when they started the National Teachers Exam, but I had to take it in 1966. I think I took it in 1965 and passed it to become a teacher. But I understand that when I got here, there were a lot of teachers who did not hold what we call the A certification. But I never thought, in the definition, it was never defined what a qualified teacher was. But it always referred to the African Americans. And so it was said at the board meeting that in order to do what HEW was advocating and the method in which we would desegregate, that we would have to get rid of a lot of African American teachers. Now, here's the tragedy about that. That is exactly what happened. The number of African American teachers began to drop in the school system.
After desegregation.
After desegregation, yes. Because you had two sets of teachers.
Because that's what I was wondering. My dad, when I told him I was talking to you, he said what he always wondered is he had black teachers before there was segregation. He remembered that. And so is that what you mean? There was black teachers in white schools at this time?
Yes, there were.
Okay, I had no.
There were a few that had gone to white schools under something called the Freedom of Choice Plan.
Now, can you explain that?
Well, there was a guy in Rocky Mount that came up with a plan which says if the child wanted to go to a school where his race was in a minority, that should be encouraged. So you remember Gloria Freeman? Did you meet Gloria?
I don't think I've met her yet. No.
But you heard of her?
Yes.
She has a segment on Crossing the Tracks. Gloria Freeman was one of those persons who went to Fight High School before desegregation under the Freedom of Choice Plan. Toby Fitch's sister, Patricia Fitch, and one of the twins, who is now a medical doctor, also went over to fight under the Freedom of Choice Plan. And Mrs. Catherine Taylor, an African American teacher, she just passed last year, and Mrs. Edith Row, her maiden name was Edith Row, were teachers at Fact High School before desegregation.
Okay.
So it is possible that your father had some African American teachers before desegregation. Not a lot, but there were some who taught in predominantly white schools. But now, when desegregation came, each year we would lose somebody. And I remember we complained on many occasions that the board was not actively recruiting or trying to hire African Americans. So the numbers went right on down to what you see today. I never accepted that certified, I'm not going to use the word qualified, I never accepted that certified African American teachers could not be found. And of course the argument is teaching didn't pay enough, you could make far more money elsewhere doing other things. But not in Wilson.
Yep.
Now, those jobs had to come to Wilson then. Firestone was one of the first companies to come that hired a lot of people that paid more than a teaching salary. So to say that in this part of the country is to be kind of incorrect, if not misleading. Yeah, misleading or incorrect. So this idea of not having qualified teachers was a myth, and I think it sprung from the fact that parents did not want their children taught by African Americans, period, whether you qualified or not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Yeah.
It did not matter. As far as me as a teacher in the desegregated school, I held a tight rein, and I knew that my requirement was to treat everybody the same. It didn't take me but just a few weeks to win over all of my students. I was not running a popularity contest, but I kept the focus on the lesson and the content and why we were studying history and what did it do for, why did we want to learn the behavior of our ancestors, and what does that do for us and America, and the children are kind of tuned into that. Tried to make the class a little lively too. So I think that my class, my history class, was a well talked about phenomenon among the students and in the community. They told their parents about it. And then when we started the African American history class, that was even more so. So equality of opportunity is one of the foundations of democracy. It's also a foundation of an educational system as well. And for those who recognize that, the desegregated school was a positive. But I will never say though that we didn't lose more than we gained, because I sincerely believe that we did.
Now, in Wilson, would you say that? I guess you would say that desegregation was not well liked, or was it a pretty even issue, or how was that in Wilson?
It was not liked at all.
At all. Okay.
In the beginning, it was not liked at all in the beginning, and the African American children were at a disadvantage. Okay, there was something in the culture that placed them at a disadvantage that they themselves did not know or understand then. And neither did I until I heard a parent say something to his son. And he said, in essence, you got to go to school. He said it like this way: you got to go to school and do what them white folks tell you to do. And that's all there is to it. Because that is my boss. I work for them. And you going around here cutting the food, I'm going to be out of a job. All right. So when the school mistreated or failed to give an equal opportunity to an African American child, they did not have any means of rectifying or mitigating that. The parents would not come to the schoolhouse and confront the system or the principal or the teacher for mistreating or doing my child wrong, because of that system of employer-employee.
I didn't even thought about that.
Yeah. So I think collectively, the children sought their remedy through the protest. All right? black children sought their remedy through the protest. And by protest, just like Martin Luther, they could bring to the public's attention all of the things that was happening to them that they did not think was right. And it worked. It worked for them. It worked for the community. And it helped the community to desegregate. So that kind of protest was good. Now, there's something else in the paper that's going to amaze you. There was a 3-day protest of all white children at Pike High School.
Wow.
They went out to Brewer's racetrack or something. And they stayed for 3 days. And the board, the principal and the chairman of the board threatened them every day if they didn't come back, what they were going to do. And the children didn't pay that any attention. They were negotiating with other entities in the community. Now, when they returned to school, they brought the police with them. The city police was stationed on the halls at Pike High School. And during those days, lots of African-American students got arrested and charged with mostly disorderly conduct. I think the policemen remained for about 2 weeks until things kind of settled down. But
They didn't arrest any whites? It was no...
not to my knowledge.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is...
Yeah, that was most unusual. See, we didn't know what they were doing, or somebody did, but I don't think the administration knew, and I know we didn't know. But the kids decided to come back, and when they came back, the city police came with them, and they remained on the halls for about 2 weeks.
Wow.
They were stationed, strategically located, and they made certain, because rightly so, it had gotten to the point where there were fights, and most of the time the white students were getting beat up. They were getting beat up pretty bad. So I heard a girl in my class, I know her, I'm looking at her face and I know her name very well, but I don't want to call her name.
Yeah, that's fine.
But she told the principal that the reason why these cops are here is because you will not protect us from those black kids.
Wow. Wow.
Now that was heavy. That was heavy. So I'm confident that there were parents
Yep.
instrumental in bringing about that change, but there were no African American parents involved in that. So when a course of action is taken like that, it did not enhance the progress or the state of school desegregation. Nonetheless, the class of 1973, they had a little protest walking up and down the hall, sticking their head in the kids in the doors and telling the children, y'all better get up and get out of here. But the kids wouldn't go. All right. The protest era had come to an end. This is with the class of 73. They protested a little bit, but not like the class of 72. At the height of protest. Finally, we settled in. We had a highly structured, leveled curriculum with 3 levels of classes in the basic courses: math, science, English, and social studies. And that remained for a long period of time. The basic class, the expectation was far too low. There were those who were claiming, this is a stereotype, that was the best these children could do. So without providing an expectation we crippled children educationally and begin to lose generations. Now we're talking about the child who falls through the crack.
It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late for that.
Yeah, it's too late.
I've always thought that.
Yeah.
It's way too late for that.
My expectation of school desegregation was that the bar would be set higher, not lowered. But in fact, what I saw, the bar was being lowered and the classes were being stratified so that you could maintain segregation of white kids. So the college preparatory classes
We're all white.
were almost all white. But I had one. I had a history class that had 7 African Americans in it. And they were extremely good students. The old county commissioner who became chairman, Mr. Frank Emery, his son was in there. There was a principal named Crawford Lane, and his wife taught at Fike High School, taught chemistry. His son was in there. There's a girl who's a doctor now, Brenda McLean. She was in there. There's a lady named Veronica Woodard. She was in there. But not only that, the children became friends.
Oh wow.
Children became friends. And I have they are teachers today. A girl was named Juliet Leech. She had my last name. And when I called the roll, I said, with a name like that, you're bound to make straight A's. You know, and everybody choking and everything. And really, she was just as smart as a whiz. She was white.
Yeah.
And she was just as smart as she could be. And her boyfriend was named Lee Matthews. He was smart too, but she was smarter than him. And they got married. They ended up teaching at Bedingfield for a while. I don't know where Lee is now, but it was just good relations. It made good relations with white kids. I was glad to get to know them and to get to know their families, because I think it was a fever groping for changing relationships and solidifying the community.
Do you think the whites in the class finally realized that, okay, they are as, you know,
Yeah.
You think they finally were like,
Yeah.
she can, you know, I'm talking to her just like I can talk to anybody.
You know this. If you go out 301, just as it curves around to the right, and then the road is kind of heading in a southwesterly direction. There's a company there called Lately. They make farm equipment. The owner of that manufacturing company, his last name was Whitney, and his son, Mike Whitney, was in that class, and Mike was my boy. I mean, we just hit it off. There was a guy who's a pharmacist. His name was Doug Barry. Same thing. I kind of tracked those kids for a pretty good while, and the school secretary's daughter was in there. Miss Guy Cox's daughter, who was the town photographer. We just had a good time. I enjoyed that part. What I didn't enjoy was seeing the children fall through the crack because we had stratified the courses and we had lowered the expectation of the children. We didn't make them meet a standard. We didn't make them read. Maybe they would choose one novel and they might read that. But then some teachers would say, well, he can't read a whole book, and let him read a short story or something like that. Now, you know that's crazy.
Yeah.
Actually,
You can read a short story, you can read a novel.
there you go. I have a granddaughter who chose for children's books. At Barnes and Nobles, I've taken her there, and she would choose an author, and she would read all the books by that author in that those grade levels, and then she'd move on. So she was reading 10, 15 books a month.
So I try to read about 50 a year. I think is my. I did that last year, so I'm busy with school. But I try. I love my thing. I love to read.
Me too.
That's my thing. And
me too. I'm dissatisfied now because as a retired person, I don't have enough time to read all of the stuff that I want to read.
My thing has been that Kindle, the tablets.
Yeah.
That has changed. If I still had to buy books, I wouldn't read as many. But without having to buy them and being right there, you can take that thing with you anywhere. That's how I read. I read everything on there.
Now, you know what? I got the device. I have. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. That's not on this, but
yeah, but something I want to ask you about that. Now,
you keep talking. I'll just grab my drink. Do you want me to drink? I'm sorry, I didn't ask you.
what you got?
I think we might have some water and some Diet Pepsi.
I take the Diet Pepsi.
All right.
One of the things that I never knew was what was the criteria for the teacher assignment in opening school year 1970. I certainly, I want to look at this in the minutes of the school board meetings to see, can I find any clues as to what was the basis for the assignments.
Like the standards that we use now. Yeah.
No, not necessarily the standards, but who decided and why did they decide that this teacher would go here, that one would go there, this one would go there, that one would go there. Two history teachers came from Barton, me and a guy named Mr. Brown. English teacher, Mrs. Higgins. Business teachers, 2 came. A math teacher, science teacher. But they didn't tell us, we didn't know. We never knew where we were going to be assigned or how we were going to be assigned. And maybe about 2 weeks before school opened, we got our assignments and went on. Change is always tough. Change is always difficult. But we ask for the change. That's when I say we, I mean African Americans encourage the board to comply with the court rulings. And so desegregation has come, and it is what it is for us today.
What do you think would have happened if y'all had enforced it? You think it would still be like it is?
Yes, it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And with the stereotype of educational levels, I shudder to think what would be the attitude of multinational corporations in hiring. I also shudder to think what would be the position of the Big Ten, Ivy League schools and all of that relative to admitting African Americans. As school desegregation came, there were already a litany of court cases in which universities had been sued, even in the 50s, for African Americans to be admitted, and they won all the cases. But still, there was no flocking to the big schools until after actually school desegregation came in the public schools in the South.
Because I don't even think about the big universities when it comes to desegregation, how that affected that.
But that's what it was. What's the Texas case? the law school.
I know you're talking about. I can't think of it.
I'm calling in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
I know
you know
you're
what the
talking
state of Texas did?
Mm-hmm.
Built an African American law school. But the court said it is not in any way equal to the Texas law school. So therefore,
No, that's not it.
they were still inherently unequal, as the judge had said. I'm not answering that. So that didn't fly, and they had to go ahead on it and admit that student.
Wow.
But that gave you a general idea of the extent that the society would go to avoid integrating anything.
Yeah, they'd rather have 8 schools here, 9 schools here, than having a 3 with everybody in them.
At the University of North Carolina, at Chapel Hill, had a policy. If you were African American and you were qualified to enter Carolina, you could not go. But they would pay your tuition to any school in the nation that you wanted to go.
Wow.
And there's somebody from Wilson, some African American, I forgot who it is, who got 3 degrees. He applied to Carolina, was turned down. They paid for his tuition to get a BS degree. Came right back and applied, and they paid for him to get a master's. He came right back and applied, and he got.
And he did that on purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got a PhD.
Wow.
So,
I never heard that. They paid your tuition.
yeah, they would pay you.
That's
that was
how
a policy.
bad they didn't want you there. That they would pay.
That was a policy, yes. So segregation was entrenched, and Dr. John Hope Franklin said, from the cradle to the grave. The segregated graveyards. He pointed that out. So every segment of our society was touched by segregation and Jim Crow. And when you think about it and how long it lasted for over 100 years, it's probably going to take another 100 for the remnants of all of that to be put aside. I don't think I'll see that in my lifetime, but I hope we move in that direction.
But you are seeing some progress.
Oh yeah, yes indeed. Yes, I'm seeing some progress when I'm asked and accepted as chairman of the board of trustees of a community college. I consider that progress. Now, I was not the first African American chairperson. I think that belongs to Charles Brantford.
Yes.
Who became chairman of the board of trustees before I did. Frank Emery being chairman of the county commissioners. The sheriff, the chief of police, the judges, Judge Fitch, and all of those are barriers. All of these people have broken barriers, and it's nothing unusual now to go into any courtroom and the judge is African American. Yes, not unusual. City managers, all of those sides. There's a tremendous amount of progress as a result of desegregation.
Now, why does that not transition? I'm sure you could tell me, but why does that not transition into teaching? Because as you said, and as I've seen, there isn't. I mean, I went to school and I had 3 my entire school time. 3 African.
You had maybe 3 African American teachers.
I mean, from first grade to senior year, I probably can count on my hand the amount of African American teachers I had.
Good Lord.
And that, I mean, I stayed in Wilson. I went to Gardner's, then I went to Spate, and then I went to Bedingfield. And I feel like where I had the most African American teachers was Bedingfield, and that was, I think I had 2 that I remember.
You didn't have African American teachers at Gardner's?
Well, Sessoms, was our principal.
Yes.
Which he was, African American.
Uh-huh.
And I believe we might have had some on the staff, but I don't remember being taught by them, because we had different classes and stuff. But we did have 5 or 6 on the staff, but like I said, I don't remember actually being taught by any until
And your middle school was Spate.
Spate. Mm-hmm.
What years were you at Spate?
Trying to think. 2000. Let's see. 2000 and I don't know. 2000 and like something to 4. So like 2000 and like 2 or 2000 and somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you missed my wife because she was a teacher, computer or technology teacher at Spate Middle. Mm-hmm. But she left in '99.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I so why do you think that doesn't occur in education? Well, especially around here.
I think that's the last leg of resistance. School desegregation. As a principal in Brantford County schools, one of my assigned duties of the superintendent was to visit historically African American colleges and universities and vigorously recruit African American teachers, especially in the area of math and science. And that I did. And found quite a number of applicants. It's that they had better jobs in more urban centers. Brantford County is rural, very rural.
Just like Wilson.
Yeah, well, Brantford is more rural than Wilson. There's not a city in Brantford County that is as large as Wilson. Okay, Wilmington is its city, but that's in New Hanover County.
Yeah.
So you say that, where in the world is that? Nobody wants to go there. But there were quite a number of African American teachers who were certified, being certified, had their credentials in their placement centers, and they were ready to go. I was glad to do that because I wanted to test that myth about. I went to South Carolina State in Orangeburg. I went to Livingstone. I went to North Carolina A&T, and of course I went to Central. And then I went to East Carolina, but I was asking them to give me the names of prospective African American teachers, and they did. So I had about 6 days in which I left the school, the assistant principal in charge, not one day right after another, but sporadically during the school year. Me and another person named George did recruiting. Well, let me say this. I think what all of us should do, you, George, myself, and some of the other people who are working together, is all of us come together and collaborate, collect data, look at it, analyze it, and we actually come up with something that is contributory. Things that we find in the data and in the history of school desegregation that will shed light on today's trends in education and things that we can present to our board and boards of education that might enlighten whatever it is that's causing us not to achieve at the highest level. Because that's what we got to do now. We got to get students to achieve at the highest level. We can't just say and keep saying and admitting that.
If you need to take it, you can go ahead. I'll stop it.
Stop it for a minute.
All right.